Fighting games are a genre of video games that are considered difficult to get into. The genre itself contains layers upon layers of complexity and requires a lot of knowledge, reaction speed, and execution to make meaningful progress in. It would be pretty accurate to state that fighting games are intimidating for the casual gaming audience. Yet come let me surprised, because whenever I chat up people at typical social settings about fighting games, the word Tekken or Smash Bros paired up with "I'm really good at it bro" pop up quite frequently, and that's got me a little bit confused. Whether it's a side effect of the "I'm the best in my neighborhood" phenomenon or the actually no cap pretty good isn't the important part here. The important thing is that the words Tekken even escape someone's mouth as a game they enjoy and are skillful at. In the fighting game space, there is a clear complexity difference between games focused on neutrals and footsies like Street Fighter 6, to faster air dash anime games like DBFZ or Guilty Gear Strive, to 3D games that add in the Z-axis. Out of the 3D fighting games that exist in the sphere, Tekken as a series is up there for being on the more complex end. With the recent launch of Tekken 8, you may have seen this with other content creators who are very good at other fighting games but are struggling at Tekken 8. There's a ton to learn and a lot that is different than your typical fighter. And that starting roster, what an absolute chunker. If you want to get good at Tekken, you're gonna be spending a lot of time learning different matchups and just how the game works in general. There's a lot of different maps that actually matter in this game. For example, in Street Fighter 6, all the stages are just set dressing. There's no real difference. Here, there's different lengths, different walls, different stage transitions that gives you more combos. There's a lot here that you have to learn outside of just your character and playing fundamentals well. Which is paradoxical in a way, because Tekken as a franchise has immense mass appeal. It's super popular with the mainstream audience. No one likes to lose, but no one seems to mind getting their shit kicked in on Tekken. There's so much in Tekken 8 to learn, yet no one in the casual realm seems to mind when some bullshit happens. On the opposite hand, I've seen so many newbies try something like Street Fighter 6 only to get frustrated and quit due to frustration from lack of understanding or execution or something else. In terms of complexities and inabilities to execute, how that is perceived by the player seems to be vastly different between the two games, and I find that super interesting. Now, I'm pretty confident in my ability to differentiate between a casual and a sweaty gamer. After all, I am a sweaty gamer. Not only am I a YouTube content creator, but I've also spent hundreds of hours training and competing at real-life tournaments for fighting games, having most recently competed in EVO 2023 in Street Fighter 6. Sadly for me, I'm the type of person that will min-max the fun out of the game for myself if I'm given the opportunity to. So what I'm trying to say is, I'm pretty far removed from being that type of person who just likes to mash buttons and have fun. I want to know what's going on, how the game system works, what my frame data is, how to punish correctly and do cool combos that have an execution barrier to them. This get good mentality has alienated me from understanding the casual appeal of Tekken for so long, until I was offered an opportunity by friends of the channel, Games Planet, to try out Tekken 8. To be honest, I had no plans on playing Tekken 8. I'm more of a Street Fighter guy myself. I was actually on vacation when the game was launching, and as part of the vacation, I made a rule to not work on anything. The rough part about being a content creator is that you're always thinking about how to create content no matter where you are or what you're doing, and while always being able to generate value out of things you experience is good, sometimes it gets in the way of letting you enjoy the moment. So, by being able to play Tekken 8 while on vacation, I was able to not focus on getting good. I was able to not focus on understanding systems. I was purely able to just enjoy the game like anyone else with no prior knowledge or understanding of Tekken would. I finally got a chance to approach the game as a filthy casual, and now I finally understand the mass appeal of Tekken and why, for being such a complex game with so many frustrating elements, so many players who are more mainstream or casual seem to just love it. And the honest answer as to why that is just because this game is just freaking dope. It's a ton of fun. The hits are impactful, and even if I have no idea what's going on, I'm just mashing buttons and cool stuff is happening. Regardless of if I'm making a good decision or not, it doesn't matter. The audio visual feedback is just top notch, and I'm just enjoying the moment to moment gameplay. It doesn't really matter what's going on. I could be winning, I could be losing. It just doesn't matter. It just feels good to interact with the game itself. And I'm not even talking about all the extra content like story mode or player customization or the amazing soundtrack that just gets you pumped up to play. Even with my years of experience playing normal fighting games, I know that I'm just a baby at Tekken. Somebody will knowledge check me with something and I'll just have no answer, and I probably will just flat out lose to like most of the characters in this game with some weird gimmick. I don't doubt that at all. I'm not very good at this game. But what I do know is that I don't care. In something like Street Fighter 6, for example, the game reminds you that you're bad at the game and that you don't know anything and you're gonna get demolished, and it feels bad. But I don't feel bad about Tekken, and it could be because I'm approaching it from a casual mindset, but I don't think so. Just by seeing how much people get frustrated at learning Street Fighter 6 compared to Tekken 8, there is definitely a difference in how people perceive what is frustrating and what isn't. It could also be how much of a reward you get from just mashing buttons, and I know this sounds weird. Even in Tekken, if you're mashing buttons and you're fighting somebody who knows what they're doing, you're gonna die. You're gonna die really fast, but it still feels good to do. In something like Street Fighter 6, let's say, if you're mashing and you're not on modern controls, it's gonna be very rare for the masher to do anything meaningful or stylish because it's not that type of game. Street Fighter requires deep understanding of frame data, hit stun, and motion inputs to create those neuron firing combos. Tekken's strings, an abundance of them, paired with the lack of motion inputs for many characters and the more simplistic and easier to understand juggle system, makes button mashing a bit more inviting, even if it's very suboptimal. And I'm saying all this as somebody who loves Street Fighter 6's combo system, and I'm actually very biased towards it. I don't like mashing. I like intentionally punishing people or setting up like situations where you are gonna get a punish counter. I used to hate links growing up, but now that I'm an old man, I love links. Links are fun, and Street Fighter is full of links. Unfortunately, comboing with links requires understanding of frame data. You have to know how many frames you have to do the next hit, You can't just do a string and it will pop people into a juggle and then you just have to hit them while they're in the air. It's not that simple, right? You have to know what's going on in order to create combos in Street Fighter 6. Of course, Tekken 8 rewards you the same way, but it is infinitely easier to throw somebody in a juggle state and then do a jab, 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 and have a cool looking combo from just mashing, even though you don't really know what's going on. There's also the topics of motion input, the big boogeyman that scares many casual players away from fighting games. In Street Fighter 6, you have to learn motion inputs if you want to get better, but with Tekken does have some motion inputs that are really rewarding to learn, but they are few and far in between. You can center your entire playstyle around not using them if you really want to. Some characters don't have them at all, and there's no concept of special canceling in Tekken, so once you knock somebody into the air, the juggle system is a lot more liberating and free-flowing than Street Fighter. Now, I'm not making these comparisons to say one game is better than the other, just the opposite actually. I just find it interesting that people perceive it so differently, even though fighting games are hard and there's a lot to learn. Funny enough, the general consensus is that if you want to learn fighting games, like get good at it, Street Fighter is the ultimate starting place, as the game heavily focuses on fundamental concepts like footsies and neutral a lot more than other fighting games. And in the context of getting good at fighting games, I would agree when it comes to visual clarity in games. So what I mean by this is most of the time, like 99% of the time, when somebody is throwing out a low in Street Fighter 6, you can tell and you can block and you can understand, okay, that's a low. But Tekken's hit system is a bit different and a little bit more aggressive, and I really like it, but it is confusing, so hear me out. There's a high, mid, and low system where to block a low attack, you have to crouch block. To block a mid attack, you have to stand block, and if you crouch block, you get hit. And to block a high, well, you stand block, or you can duck it and let them whiff entirely, giving you a punish option. A lot of moves in Tekken, they look like highs, but they're actually mid. So you go to duck them, and you're like, yeah, I want to get this nice punish, and then you just die. You just get launched, and then you lose 50% of your health. And that's Tekken 8's offense in a nutshell. I get that that's an intentional part of the game. They want you to stand block a lot, but at the same time, in terms of visual clarity, it's just like, I should have been able to duck that. The same thing with sidestepping. In Tekken 8, some moves just track really well, even if they're not a homing move, so if you do a sidestep, it might still hit you. Bro, I don't know. Like, look at this clip. I just get shot by Nina's shoulder or something. Like, what the heck is this? Anyways, the debate on a good first fighting game is definitely something that keeps popping up within the gaming sphere, just because fighting games are intimidating, and any Galaxy Brain FGC veterans will say that you should just play the fighting game that you really enjoy. And I agree with this. Tekken 8 is actually the perfect example of this concept. The game is not easy, and it can be ultra punishing once you start to fight people who know what they're doing. But the important part about this is that if you're having fun the whole way through, you'll play through the frustration and you'll want to play the game more. And if you play the game more, you're gonna learn more of the systems and you're gonna get more curious and you're gonna ask more questions. So when you're actually having fun, complexity in a game is actually really good for getting people into the game more. There's a lot to discover, a lot to chew on, and a lot to absorb, and you just feel like anytime you play the game, you're learning something new. And fighting games are really good at offering this. It just doesn't feel like it when presented to a player up front. Except if you can just mash buttons and have fun just starting out. And then you say, okay, how do I get even better than this? And that is ultimately what I would call the Tekken accessibility paradox. Is that the game can be so difficult and complex, but it can be so appealing to somebody who just wants to play a freaking game and have fun. It's like the ultimate proof that to get more people into fighting games, the answer is not to dumb down system and make things a lot easier to understand, because that ultimately won't matter. is not gonna change someone's mind about a game. What matters is how fun the game feels to play in the moment-to-moment context, something that Tekken 8 is absolutely amazing at. I would even go so far as to say that if I was told to recommend somebody a fighting game as their first fighting game, as much as I love Street Fighter 6, and as much as I want people to play Street Fighter 6, I have to recommend Tekken 8 first. While the moment-to-moment gameplay of Street Fighter is a lot simpler, it doesn't feel like it when in the hands of an average player, like I said, because you can't really do a lot of cool stuff unless you put some time in. But of course, this is just my opinion. I want to hear what you think in the comments below. Do you find Tekken 8 to be accessible for newcomers to fighting games? And if you haven't played Tekken 8 and want to give it a try on PC, grab a Steam code with my affiliate link down in the description below from Games Planet, where you can save up to 20% off using my discount code depending on when you access this deal. This current discount ends at the end of February, so grab it while you still can. And if you enjoyed this video, you may enjoy another one of my videos where I go over an obscure fighting game that is a spin-off of the Final Fantasy series, and I really wish that it got remade properly. So check it out, video on screen right now. My name is Varsona, and I'll see you next time.